All right, so are we going to see kickoff returns make a huge comeback in the NFL in 2025? I mean, you've got some pretty interesting info here about proposed rule changes, and we're going to find out if special teams are about to get a major makeover. We're going to really break down these changes, figure out why the NFL is even considering this, and what it might mean for the game. This is basically a deep dive into the history of the kickoff, and where it might be going next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one thing that really jumps out at me from what you got here is how big of a change this could be. It's not just some small tweak. I mean, it's like a whole new way of thinking about kickoffs. We need to really look at what this proposal for 2025 is all about and how it connects to what the NFL has been trying to do with kickoffs these past few years.
Yeah, so the big news is this idea of moving touchbacks all the way to the 35-yard line in 2025. Now, it's not a done deal, but even the thought of this is a pretty big deal, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. To really understand why this is such a big deal, we have to go back to last season, 2024. Remember the NFL made that rule where touchbacks started at the 30-yard line. The idea, as your research shows, was to make taking a touchback a little less attractive, to encourage more returns.
Right. It was all about getting teams to stop just booting the ball through the end zone. But when you look at the stats, it wasn't exactly like kick returns suddenly took over the game.
No, not really. I mean, it's surprising 64% of kickoffs still ended up as touchbacks. Sure, the return rate went up a bit from 22% in 2023 to 33% in 2024, but let's be real, those are still really low numbers historically. So that 30-yard line rule, it was a step in the right direction, but it didn't exactly bring back the glory days of the kick return.
Which makes you wonder, why push it even further to the 35? What's the NFL really trying to achieve with this possible change in 2025?
Well, it all comes down to what the league is trying to do overall. It's like they're walking a tightrope, trying to balance player safety with keeping the fans excited. At first, the rule changes were all about making kickoffs safer, and the data from 2024 suggests they've made some progress there. Kickoff injuries are now about the same as other plays.
So if they're feeling good about the safety issue, that means they can focus on bringing back some of that excitement that kick returns used to have.
Exactly. It seems like the league thinks that by making a touchback even less appealing, teams will have to kick shorter, aim for a specific spot on the field, and force the other team to return the ball.
And we're talking about a pretty big jump in return rates, right? Like maybe even double what we're seeing now.
Yeah, the projections show a big increase, maybe something like 60 to 70% of kickoffs being returned. If that happens, it's going to change everything about how teams approach special teams. They might start putting a real emphasis on drafting and developing great returners, and the whole strategy of where to kick the ball and how to cover kicks. It all becomes super important.
And this is where it gets really interesting for you, the fans. Imagine seeing game-changing plays on kick returns again. Those electric moments that can completely swing the momentum? Suddenly, having a great returner becomes a huge advantage.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the field position a top returner can get you and the scoring chances they can create. This rule could bring back the era of the superstar return specialist. And it affects everything else, too. Coverage teams will have to be way more disciplined, and special teams as a whole could become a much bigger factor in who wins and loses games.
So the bottom line for you listening is this: the NFL is seriously thinking about making a big change to kickoffs. They want to make returns exciting again while keeping things safe, and it's the next step in how this part of the game is evolving.
And it leaves us with something interesting to think about. If this rule does happen, how much do you think it's going to change special team strategy? And which players, those shifty returners, those hard-hitting coverage guys, or even the kickers who can drop the ball right where they want it, who's going to be the most valuable? It's something to keep an eye on as we head into 2025.